Hello guys and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be showing you guys one of my favorite decks of all time, and that of course being Guru Control. But without saying too much, let's go ahead and jump right on into the main deck. Starting off, of course, you do around 3 copies of Subterror Guru. Guru, of course, is the main starter of the deck. Of course, you can set this card, and then with the field spell, or just on your next turn, you can flip this card face up to search any Subterror card from your deck to your hand. And this card also has another effect where you can target one other monster your opponent controls, and then flip this card and that opponent's monster face down, so you can kind of just book a moon, a really powerful card, even like a Shangri-Era, or an Arise Heart, or anything like that, just be able to book a moon any monster. Then of course we do run 3 copies of Subterror Fiendus. Subterror Fiendus is one of the best hand traps you can run in this deck. This card says that if your opponent activates a card or effect while you control a face-up Subterror, you can discard this card from your hand, flip your other Subterror monster face down, and then negate that effect. It does not destroy that card, but it does negate it, and this card also does have another effect that says that while this card is on the field, you can target one Subterror monster in your graveyard and one Subterror monster on your field, flip the monster on the field face down, and then you can either special summon that monster or set it face down. Of course, your main thing is you'll summon this, then you can actually recycle your Fiendus off of Fiendus, because the hand trap effect you can even use from field, kind of like Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, which is just really powerful. But that's really it for the Subterror monsters. Continuing on, we do run 1 copy of Destrudo, because we do run the Ancient Fairy Dragon in this deck, because it works really well with Subterrors. And then of course for hand traps, we do run 2 copies of Lord of the Heavenly Prison. This card just says you can reveal this card in your hand until the end phase of your opponent's turn. And then while this card is revealed, it protects all set cards, so therefore you can like protect your set spell or traps, or even protect your Guru or anything like that, which is just really powerful. And this card also has another effect that says if this card is revealed in your hand and either player activates a set spell or trap, you can special summon this card from your hand, then set any spell or trap from your deck to your side of the field. However, it is banished during the end phase of the next turn. So that's why you want to be able to use other stuff like you could set Terraforming, or you could even set the Subterror Trap for this deck, because the Subterror Trap just resets itself after activation, so it'll forget that it was set by the effect of Lord of the Heavenly Prison, and it will not be banished. Then continuing on, of course, we do run 3 copies of Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, and 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. Continuing on, of course, we do run 3 copies of Red Eyes Fusion. Red Eyes Fusion does have the downside of you can't normal summon or special summon the turn you activate this card. However, with this deck, you can just set Guru, and that's pretty much full combo, and you can just still go with your Fusion. So that way you can, of course, set out Dragoon. And of course, we do run the Dark Magician and the Red Eyes Black Dragon, so that way we can summon out Dragoon. Continuing on into the field spells, we do run, of course, 3 copies of the Hidden City. The Hidden City has a really powerful effect of when this card is activated, you can add 1 Subterror monster from your deck to your hand. Then this card also says that once per turn, you can change 1 face-down defense position Subterror monster you control to face-up attack or defense position. And then this card also says once per turn, if your opponent's monster declares an attack, you can change 1 face-down defense position Subterror monster you control to face-up attack or defense position. Then you can negate that attack. You can only activate 1 per turn. But this card, of course, is just one of your ways to get into Guru, and it's just really powerful in this deck. Continuing on, I do run 3 copies of Dragon Ravine just to be able to send the Destrudo from the deck to the graveyard, so that way you can set up Ancient Fairy Dragon to either get your Hidden City or even your copy of Necro Valley, because we do not use the graveyard whatsoever in this deck, and just having the Necro Valley helps to lock your opponent from being able to do anything with the graveyard. Then, of course, to wrap up the field spells, we do run Set Rotation and Terraforming just to be able to get into these cards. Of course, with Set Rotation, you want to give your opponent the Necro Valley, or you can even give them Dragon Ravine if you know they're not playing any dragons. But the best card, of course, is just give them the copy of Necro Valley. Then, of course, to wrap up the spell cards, we do run 3 copies of Pot of Prosperity. If you can't afford Pot of Prosperity, then I would definitely suggest running Pot of Extravagance. Continuing on into the traps, we do run 2 copies of the Subterror Final Battle trap card. This card says you can activate one of these effects. Also, after that, set this card face down instead of sending it to the graveyard. So as I said, this card just plays around your copy of Lord of the Heavenly Prison, because this card will forget that it was set by the effect of that, because it was actually set by the effect of this after resolution. However, this card does have 4 effects that you can choose from. The first effect says you can change 1 set Subterror monster on the field to face up attack or defense position. The second effect says you can change one face-up Subterror monster on the field to face-down defense position. The third effect says the attack and defense of one of your Subterror monsters on the field become equal to the combined original attack and defense until the end of this turn, which of course you would do with like your Guru, because this has 1600 attack, 1800 defense, so that just becomes a 3800 attack and defense monster. Then the last effect says, this turn, activated effects of Subterror cards cannot be negated, so therefore if your opponent tries to Ash your Guru, you can just chain this in response, and then your opponent cannot resolve Ash, of course. Then, of course, we do run 3 copies of There Can Be Only One, because we don't really summon anything except for spellcasters, dragons, and the occasional... Well, of course, we sometimes summon Fiendus, but mainly we just go with the Spellcaster and the Guru, and you just want to send this from your hand to the graveyard to negate. And then, of course, to wrap it up, we do run 3 copies of Summon Limit, because we are not going to really summon more than twice in a turn. But with a bunch of the decks running around right now, they just can't really out-summon Limit, and they can't really just summon their monsters that they need to get into their full board. But that's going to be it for the main deck. Let's go ahead and quickly look at that extra deck. Of course, starting off, we do run 2 copies of Red Eyes Dark Dragoon. Only reason why we really run 2 is because if our opponents are playing Kashtira, they can Diablosis and send one of your Dragoons. And if you're only running 1, you just couldn't really play. But this card just says that if your opponent activates a card or effect, you can discard 1 card to negate and destroy that card that your opponent activated, as well as this card will gain 1000 attack if you do that. Then this card has a second effect that says that you can target cards on the field up to the number of normal monsters you sent to the graveyard and destroy those cards, or technically you have to destroy the monsters, but your opponent takes damage equal to that monster's attack. Then continuing on, I do run Super Poly in the side deck, so of course we do run the 1 copy of Starving Venom Fusion Dragon, as well as Predaplant Dragostapelia, with also Garura, Wings of Resonant Life, and to wrap that up, we do run the Mud Dragon of the Swamp. So really, these cards are just really powerful, just to be able to take your opponent's monsters, fuse them, of course. Y'all know what Super Poly does, I don't really think I need to go into that all too much. Then continuing on into the Synchros, we only run 1, and that of course being Ancient Fairy Dragon. Ancient Fairy Dragon has a few really powerful effects. The first effect, of course, is that once per turn you can special summon 1 level 4 or lower monster from your hand, but you cannot conduct your battle phase the turn you activate this effect. Also, this card has the effect of once per turn you can destroy 1 field spell card, and if you do, or at least 1, so if your opponent has 1, you can just destroy that as well. However, this card does activate an additional field spell from your deck, so therefore you can go from Dragon Ravine straight into your copy of the Hidden City, and you also gain 1000 life points for activating that effect. Of course, this card did get an errata pretty recently, so of course all of those effects are hard once per turns, but really with just 1 copy, it's not going to really be able to do that unless you summon it back in the grave or something like that. But that's it for the Synchros. Continuing on into the links, we do run 1 copy of Also the Earth Charmer Immovable, of course for linking off our copies of Guru, or even our copies of Fiendus. And also, one of the main things that I really like about this card, especially in this format, is that Kashtira Fenrir is an Earth, so you can also just take your opponent's Fenrir, and now, well, it's yours. And you can just use that to control your opponent's field or whatever, and it's just really powerful. Of course, we also do run Dark the Dark Charmer Gloomy. We don't really have as many options to go into this, however, we could always just use one of our Link monsters as well as any of our Super Poly targets, because Mud Dragon of the Swamp can change to Dark, and you can just use any of these to get that off the field, and Lord of the Heavenly Sky Prison. Then to wrap up the links, we do run 1 copy of Apollosa as well as 1 copy of Access Code. You're not really going to go into these all too much unless you do set up the Asa or the Dark, but really, you're not really going to go into these all too much, and you can run anything else instead. I just like running these because they do occasionally come up in very niche situations. But that's it for the links. Moving on, we do have a few Xyz monsters. Of course, we do run 1 copy of Abyss Dweller, as well as 1 copy of Baguska, just so that way we can kind of lock our opponents out of using graveyard effects, and of course, just lock them from being able to really use any monster effect on board if you just change it to defense. The only downside, of course, to Baguska is link monsters. And of course, I do run 1 copy of Time Thief Redoer, because this, in my opinion, Time Thief Redoer is just one of the best Xyz monsters that is just generic level 4s, because this card can just take cards from your opponent's top of their deck, which obviously can hit some of their combo pieces. And another really powerful thing about this is once per turn you can attach up to 3 materials, And then you can activate each of the effects depending on what you removed. So if you detached a monster, you can banish this card, then summon it back during the end phase. If you detached a spell, you can just draw one card, and if you detached one trap card, you can place one card from your opponent's field on top of their deck, so that way it can just be absorbed with Redoer. But then, to wrap it up, of course we do run one copy of Divine Arsenal AA Zeus Sky Thunder, just to be able to wipe fields pretty easily. And then I actually do have a side deck for this build because, as I said, we do run Super Poly. So I went ahead and just built an entire side deck for you guys just to show you guys what I like to run for this. Of course, I do run 3 copies of Drone Lockbird because there's a lot of searching in this format, and just being able to activate Drone Lockbird on their first activation just to be able to turn off their turn is just really powerful. Then, of course, we do run 3 copies of Dimension Shifter. Dimension Shifter does not really hurt our deck all too much, except for, of course, Destrudo. But if you do have to activate Shifter, then the best option is just, not use Destrudo. But really, this card is just really good because we don't really use the graveyard all too much, and we can just turn off opponent's turns altogether just by using this one card. Then, of course, as I said, we do run the 3 copies of Super Polymerization to be able to fuse our opponent's monsters, as well as 3 copies of Lightning Storm to be able to clear out attack position monsters our opponent controls, or their back row. And then I do run 3 copies of Solemn Judgment in the side deck. Honestly, you could main deck this instead of one of your Floodgates. However, I feel like the Floodgates are just a little bit more powerful right now, and Solemn Judgment, if I could fit it, I absolutely would. But that's going to be it for the side deck, as well as for the video. If you guys enjoyed, please be sure to leave a like. Comment down below what you guys think of the deck profile, as well as what you guys would change to update it. Of course, follow me down in the description for my Twitter, but really that's going to be about it for that. So with that being said, guys, see ya.